On January 5, 2024, Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 prepared for what should have been a standard journey. The Boeing 737 MAX 9 was scheduled to fly from Portland, Oregon to Ontario, California. Passengers settled into their seats and the flight attendants conducted their final safety checks. The mood was calm, filled with the quiet anticipation that, usually precedes any takeoff. The aircraft was nearly new, having been delivered to the airline just a few months prior. For the 171 passengers and 6 crew members on board, this was just another flight, one of thousands that crisscross the country safely every single day. The aircraft, registration N704AL, pushed back from the gate and taxied to the runway under the gray Oregon sky. The pilots, experienced and professional, guided the plane through the familiar procedures of pre-flight protocols. In the cabin, the flight attendants, led by their training and years of service, ensured everyone was secure and ready for departure. The powerful engines spooled up, and the jet accelerated down the runway, lifting gracefully into the air, climbing toward its cruising altitude. The aircraft climbed past 10,000 feet, then 12,000, and was approaching 16,000 feet. Suddenly, without any warning, a thunderous, explosive bang echoed through the cabin. The aircraft shuddered violently. Near the rear of the plane, a section of the fuselage where a window should have been simply vanished. A mid-cabin door plug, a panel used to seal an unused emergency exit, had torn away from the aircraft. It was ripped from its frame with incredible force, leaving a gaping refrigerator-sized hole in the side of the plane. The carefully maintained pressure inside the cabin was lost in a fraction of a second, resulting in a terrifying explosive decompression that changed everything. The oxygen masks, a critical lifeline, deployed from the ceiling panels, dangling above the terrified passengers. Loose items, phones, magazines, even the shirt off a teenager's back, were instantly pulled out of the aircraft and into the night sky. One flight attendant, standing near the gaping hole, was almost pulled from the aircraft herself, saved only by the quick actions of her colleagues and nearby passengers. The lawsuit filed against Boeing would later bring 4 of their names into the public focus: Michelle Hughes, Farrah Morris, Timothy Schoenwald, and Kristen Cave. These were not just employees, they were seasoned professionals, trained to handle medical emergencies, security threats, and, in this case, a catastrophic structural failure. The physical toll was swift and severe. The violent change in pressure caused barotrauma, an injury to the ears and sinuses that results in intense pain, pressure, and sometimes hearing loss. Flight attendants reported bleeding from their ears and noses as their bodies struggled to cope with the sudden environmental shift. Beyond the immediate physical harm, the emotional and psychological trauma was profound and lasting. The crew members believed they were about to die. The lawsuit filed on their behalf details the extent of this suffering. It describes how the event has fundamentally altered their lives. The lawyer for the flight attendants, Mark Lindquist, emphasized this point, saying, "Our clients, and likely every passenger on that flight, suffered unnecessary trauma due to the negligence of Boeing." The lawsuit quotes one attendant as thinking, "I am going to die." This simple, stark statement encapsulates the pure terror of the moment. To understand the failure on Flight 1282, one must first understand what a door plug is and why it exists. A door plug is a specialized panel used to seal an emergency exit opening that is not needed for a particular airline's seating configuration. Aircraft like the Boeing 737 MAX 9 are designed to be adaptable. They can be configured with a higher density of seats, which by regulation requires more emergency exits to allow for rapid evacuation. The plug is held in place by a series of stop pads and restraining bolts that secure it firmly to the airframe. The safety of the system depends entirely on its correct installation. The investigation into the Alaska Airlines incident, led by the National Transportation Safety Board, quickly focused on this critical component. Investigators found the recovered door plug and discovered that 4 key bolts, intended to secure it to the fuselage, were missing. The NTSB's preliminary report suggested that these bolts were never installed at the Boeing factory, after the plug was opened to allow for other maintenance work. The lawsuit filed by the flight attendants is built upon a clear and serious accusation. Boeing was negligent. The core of the complaint alleges that Boeing prioritized profits over safety, leading to a dangerous and defective product being delivered. The primary allegation is that Boeing is liable for the defective and unsafe condition of the 737 MAX 9. The suit argues that the aircraft was delivered with a critical flaw, the missing bolts on the door plug, which made it unreasonably dangerous for its intended use. Aviation lawsuits, especially those involving a major manufacturer like Boeing, typically follow a long and complex path. During discovery, both sides exchange information and evidence relevant to the case. For a case like this, the flight attendants' lawyers would request thousands of documents from Boeing, including internal emails, inspection reports, manufacturing logs, and records related to quality control procedures. Both sides will often hire experts to analyze the evidence and provide testimony. In an aviation case, these experts can include aeronautical engineers, metallurgists, and specialists in aviation safety and manufacturing processes. Ultimately, the flight attendants are seeking compensatory and punitive damages. Compensatory damages are intended to cover the costs of their injuries, including medical bills, lost wages, and compensation for their pain and suffering. The incident has triggered intense regulatory oversight from the Federal Aviation Administration, which has halted production expansion and increased its on-site inspections at Boeing's facilities. This case could force fundamental changes in how Boeing manufactures its aircraft. The public and regulatory pressure is immense, and the company is now under a microscope. The story of Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 is a powerful lesson in the immense responsibility that underpins the miracle of modern aviation. The incident vividly demonstrated that the cabin crew are not just service providers, they are certified safety professionals, the final line of defense when engineering and manufacturing fail. Their courage under unimaginable pressure saved lives. Their story is now woven into the fabric of aviation history, a cautionary tale that will, hopefully, lead to a safer and more secure future for all who take to the skies.